Hi, Molly Gebler.
Hi, Alex Gertzberg.
How are you?
Oh, this is our person on the phone. I'm going to grab it.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello.
You get an extra bonus if you can find the author from this place?
That's right. We like to keep you guessing.
I'll be right there. Don't move. Don't move.
But he's not on the.
I think he's up here.
Doctor is my euphemism for, like, you saw spies like us, right?
Doctor. Come on in. You know this doctor.
Hi. How's
So
it
good
going?
to see you.
Good to see you.
Hey.
How
you
are
doing?
you? Good.
See ya.
Good. I've got a Bud Light and a white.
Oh gosh.
So how did this craziness even start?
It started several iterations ago. This is just the most recent attempt at a podcast. And the first one was going to be things you would talk to your lawyer about if you were having a scotch with him at the country club. Right? That was the theme.
That was the thing.
That was
Somehow that didn't last.
Yeah. Well, no, we got too drunk on it.
Was this
I
pre-Molly?
think that
This
this
is, I was
Yeah.
on the opening one of that.
You were the
I
first
was.
guest.
I
That's
was
right.
a great addition to it, and then they kicked me out.
Yeah. But we thought it would be cool to invite business owners on, right? And just talk to us as though we were their lawyer, right? And we had 8 episodes, and it was always there was always a bottle of scotch as our mystery guest, right? And we just got wasted, and it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
By the end, we have these though; they're saved somewhere, and so one
when
day,
this one becomes
pull them
famous,
out.
we'll break
yeah,
them
those
out.
will be the bootleg sessions. And
We are recording, FYI, just
Yeah.
so you know.
Oh, good.
We like to do a
that's called a rolling start.
rolling start. Yes.
Oh, very tight.
Yes. Well, it's very exciting because this is our first double interview.
Right. This is a first for sure
This is big time.
in the history of the best podcast ever.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to
Our
be
first.
interesting, I'm sure, with both of us.
Oh my goodness.
Fighting for airtime.
We've hit it.
You
We've
guys
hit it.
Fighting for airtime.
I told Bob, sit back and watch your shot.
That's what I tell Alex all the time as well.
And I fail every time.
Yes.
Okay, so Molly, our guests today
Yes.
are Bob Hunt and Shannon Beach, Dr. Shannon Beach, to be precise.
Is Bob a doctor?
He is not.
Okay. Are you 1 credit away or?
I'm working on my dissertation.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of doctor are you going to be?
It'll be in
surgeon?
educational leadership, but I can certainly operate if I need to.
Okay.
Let me know.
Deliver babies.
And
Doctor
it
on
is-
BS.
At Ursuline?
No, Kent State.
Oh, flasher. That's what I call them. Flashers.
Was there flashers?
That's what I
Why?
call. Well, my daughter goes there, so I call them flashers. The flashers. It's flashes. The golden
That's their.
flashes.
Oh, is that true?
Yes.
Did you know
I
that?
call them the
Well, that's where I got
flashers.
mine, so that's the only reason I know that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I had no idea. My high school was the Brush Arcs, and it was a flash. The lightning flash was their mascot because Charles F. Brush invented the arc light.
Well,
Little
thank goodness
tidbit.
we're in tiger country here. That's all I gotta say. All I gotta
flashes.
say.
Is there any rivalry between the two of you over the whole doctor thing?
No, she has hers and I don't. Pretty simple
But
conversation.
you've never been like, but I'm a doctor, honey.
No.
Nothing like that.
It's
Well,
maybe-
that's a lie.
I'm sure there's some little ones, little
Well, I
zingers you
think
give.
It's been almost going on 5 years since I've had mine, but
Mhm.
I think the first year I was always about those little zingers because it's a really big deal. It's
Yeah.
a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got the little, I call it like the artist cap that you get, it's really the doctoral thing, and I would wear that around the house vacuuming, because it's like, where else are you going to wear it,
Right.
But, so, I would do that, but now it's just, he knows.
Yeah.
So that's all.
That's all that's important.
That's all that's important. I don't have to
He
keep
knows that
reminding
he doesn't
him.
have one, and I have one.
Yes.
Yes. I love that. And speaking of tiger country,
We have 2
we have
tigers here
2. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
because you guys work together also.
Yes. So
Yeah, we do.
But not in the same building. right? Or is it?
Yeah, my office is in the basement of the high school.
Okay, it is? All right. They don't have like a separate Board of Education?
I mean, a separate entrance. They try to keep us away for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
But it's funny. I don't really see him that much.
Yeah, it's not like a big, you know, I know other schools, like, they have this big
Board of Education
Orlean
building,
at
yeah.
the Chagrin Falls.
Okay.
Um,
You put
right,
all of
like-
your money into the students.
Exactly, I'm sure Bob
Right.
would say, agree with
Right.
me on that.
Thank
Yeah.
So
And Bob is the
the
superintendent.
superintendent and Dr. Shannon Beach is head of the English department? Do
I
have that right?
was.
You were head of the English
Yes.
What-
That's how we came to know
Right.
each other.
That's
Yes.
right.
So I'm no longer, and I'm actually taking this year off because of medical leave with our son, which has been great in a lot of ways, not
Yeah.
working, but I'm missing the students and all of that. But yeah, I was there, this is probably going on almost 20 years at Chagrin. So I was there before Bob got there. Yeah, but so I've been teaching English.
Yeah.
And running the writing center, and yeah, it's been it's just been a wonderful place. to
Where were
teach
you
and-
before Chagrin?
I was at Solon for just 1 year.
Okay.
When I got out of college, I thought, well, I'm going to be this teacher. I might as well get paid a teacher salary, which at the time was, I don't know, maybe $30,000. That was the top of the line.
Right.
And so I just went online and looked at the top paying school districts, and that's how I sent my, resume in. And thankfully, Solon had an opening, but it was a maternity leave position. So I knew it was a 1-year gig, which was great because I got to teach at Solon and then got that on my resume. And then I got to come over here, which was just so much better. I'm more of a small town girl. So Solon was a big adjustment for
Yeah.
me. I mean,
Are you from the area?
No, I'm from Portage County.
Okay.
I'm in between Akron and Canton. So I was grateful for the opportunity to have Solon on my resume, but I contemplated whether or not I really wanted to teach anymore after that experience. It was just far different than anything that I had thought about education. And I was a 22-year-old and I was teaching juniors and seniors.
Right.
So that came with a whole lot of issues too. And
And
I was
just-
inexperienced.
For the listeners, it's not that we have any problem with Solon.
No.
I have some problems with Solon.
I loved
I'm just
it.
joking. I'm just joking. I know.
It was just, they're a great school district. It was just,
Yeah.
for me, it wasn't a good fit,
Right,
know?
right.
And so I was just lucky that when I came over here, it was just totally
And when was
fell
that?
into it.
When did
So
you?
that would have been 99.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there? Yeah. Go ahead, Melanie.
Go ahead. Is Bob, you were Chagrin, and then you went somewhere, and then you came back to Chagrin?
Yeah, so I started my teaching career actually in Kenston.
Ooh.
Really?
Yes.
Producer at the time for a sound effect.
What kind of sound effect do you want Kenston
Oh.
to have? Whatever.
You know, I'm a graduate of Kenston.
Ooh.
So I worked
Molly's
But
my
you've
wine went
redeemed
right to her
yourself
head.
since.
redeemed myself. Yeah. So I taught there. I was an English teacher for 4 years. Then I became an assistant middle school principal there, and then I had the good fortune of coming over to Chagrin as an assistant high school principal, and I've kind of just worked my way up from there, high school principal to assistant superintendent. I did step away for a year as a superintendent of another district, and I was fortunate enough to be called back.
Mm.
So
I think I went through all that with you.
Yeah.
With the kids. Yeah.
15 years.
Mm.
Have you guys all known each other, Molly and Bob and?
Yeah, we've worked together in different aspects. Bob is
Okay.
on my board with the chamber.
Gotcha.
And Shannon and I've worked together, got our newsletter up and going. Our students edited it, and
Okay.
yeah.
So, you guys have had a pretty significant life event recently in the last, we've been reading a lot about it. I've been meditating about it. But I couldn't find the odds. So your son was diagnosed with a cancer that's so rare that he's the only infant ever in the
world.
Is that today or is that ever in
Well,
in the
as
history
far
of the
as what
disease?
I guess since they've been keeping track of everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, crazy.
So that would be like a 1 in a gazillion
Yeah.
kind of statistic, right? I mean, which I just invented that number.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, the odds of your kid getting cancer are very few the way it is. And then, he was misdiagnosed a couple times. I mean, it took us about a week to get
through
the
that,
full
'cause
diagnosis.
that is very interesting. I remember you telling me, one of you, about, I mean, it was by your sheer insisting and mother gut feeling that it finally came out, because you ever, right?
Yeah. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I can be crazy. And I was never more crazy that week and more persistent in getting answers for Hawk, because I just knew something was wrong. And it took literally, I think, 6 full days. I mean, it started on a Sunday that I noticed something was wrong with him, and I'm calling the nurse on call. We went to the pediatrician. We went to the med center. We went to 2 ER trips. Another nurse on call. I mean, so there were, I think, 6 different things in 5 days. He had multiple blood tests, and they just kept on saying, well, his platelet levels are low, but he's got a virus. Everyone stuck with him having a virus.
Was this before or after you brought him home?
This is.
He's 3 months or 4 months.
Oh.
He was 7. He was 7 months.
7 months.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously,
Yeah.
you brought him home.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So he was 7 months, and they just kept on saying. I mean, I almost got laughed at the urgent care.
But what was it at home that led you to believe that something was wrong?
Well, our son is an eater. If you've ever seen any pictures of him, he likes to eat.
Okay.
He's a product of.
Thank you.
I was gonna say us,
Yeah.
but you chimed in there.
For the record, nobody could see
No.
at home that
Even they could hear it. She
Shannon was looking directly at Bob.
There was that dramatic pause. So he stopped eating. He was vomiting, but mostly it was his look at his face. If you were to look at his eyes, like he had not just dark circles, but it looked like he was punched in the eyes. Like they were dark. I mean, they were black eyes, and just couldn't really figure out what that was. They just said it was a virus. He doesn't have a fever. Kind of dismissed me. Basically, I was told at one place, well, if it makes you feel better, you can give him Tylenol. I was like, it makes more than Tylenol to make me feel better, but okay. So it was literally like that for 5 days. Had the blood tests, still throwing up. It comes to find out what was happening is the leukemia was attacking his brain, and that's what one side of his face started to droop. And then we finally got transported to the clinic, and then our lives changed from there. That's where he was diagnosed, and that's where we ended up living for 5 months.
And when they share with you what it is, and that he's the only one, because they didn't even know how to treat it because there was no statistic on the amount of medication or what you do or what kind of treatment you do, because they had no idea. They had never treated anyone before. What are you feeling at that point when you find out that what he has and that it's so rare, and they have no idea how to treat it?
Yeah, so we didn't find out all of that at once. We'll never forget, we were transported on a Friday night. He was diagnosed on a Saturday, and the protocol to start the treatment for leukemia is fairly similar for most of them. So they knew he was going to need a port. They knew he was going to need a injection into his spine, so to get into start treating what was in his brain.
Mostly steroid therapy.
Yeah. So we kind of started down that road, and they weren't sure of the diagnosis, so they took the blood, knew he had leukemia, said it was going to be a few days before they could determine. At the time, there different types of leukemia. There's ALL and there's AML. AML is much more significant in terms of the treatment plan and your prognosis going forward, so we're kind of praying that it wasn't that. They looked at a genetic marker, determined it wasn't that, so we had a little bit of a celebration into that first week. And then it was towards the end of that first week, we were kind of doing the handoff, where I was coming from work and she was going to go home. We were in the room together, and 3 doctors walked in and said, I think the words were, there's been a change.
There's been a change. Yeah. And I'll never forget, for me, I think it was almost harder than his original diagnosis. We kind of knew when we were transported, we walked onto the pediatric oncology floor, that they knew what was up. They knew what no one else really wanted to know or couldn't figure out. I don't know. But that moment when they said things have changed, because it went from, oh, he doesn't have AML, he's got ALL, which is a far greater chance of success. The treatment plan's much longer, but really you got like a 90% or even higher chance of recovering. So we felt good about that. And then when they said things had changed, and we had family in the room, and they're like, can you meet us in the conference room? And I'll never forget that walk, because my head just got hot. Bob's like basically carrying me down, because just the weight of everything, I was hysterical. Because I was like, how do you even go from your kid has leukemia, which is far devastating, to things have changed? I'm like, how could things change? Mm-hmm. And that's when they said Burkitt's leukemia. And granted, I didn't know a lot about leukemia. I mean, I knew there were two predominant types, the AML and the ALL. I'd never heard of Burkitt's. Most people haven't, because it's only 1% to 2% of all leukemias. And then, like you said, there's no protocol. Well, there is a protocol for Burkitt's leukemia, but it's for people that
Adults,
are older.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, they contacted people all over the country, because really Hawk's kind of this monumental figure for Burkitt's leukemia, because they knew how to treat it. And Burkitt's leukemia also has a high success rate for older people. The difference is because it's so aggressive, the treatment is far more aggressive. It's 6 cycles consecutively, like 21-day cycles. So as soon as you get done of chemo. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you get done and as soon as you recover, boom, you go to another. Unlike ALL, which is a far longer treatment plan. It's a 2-year or more treatment plan, but it's not as rigorous, in the chemo plan. So they knew it could be successful. They just didn't know with his body, if he could handle it. They're like, we know we can cure it. We just don't know if he's going to be able to live through the treatment.
Right, and you journaled. Some of your writings were, you took the readers into the hallway. I remember what you're talking about, specifically reading that, and you were on the ground. He was holding you up, you were on the ground, and just your writing was, and you journaled throughout the whole thing. Was that helpful for you? Do you feel that you got through it a little bit because you got to get all that out on paper?
I felt like, one, it was a great opportunity for me to practice what I preach. I've been a teacher of writing for so many years, and what a great opportunity for me to actually do that. But most importantly, and it really was Bob's idea for me to do this, was going to be a really long journey. It was going to be the story of our lives, and it was going to be the story of Hawk's life. And for Hawk, he's not going to know, and I wanted him to know. And I wanted him to know every minute of every painstaking thing that he went through. So when that girl breaks his heart when he's 16, I can be like, you can get over this, buddy. You read this. If you can get over this, you can get over that heartache. Right. And I think it was more about wanting him to know his story, instead of just saying, you had cancer, because that's all he's going to really know, is for him to be able to live it. And there were times I didn't want to do it. I think I wrote about that one time, and Bob would be like, people are asking me, when are you gonna write something?
And how was it with people being such a small community like Chagrin Falls, and beyond, because this touched people everywhere, but how was that open? You were raw in some of these entries. You were letting us in.
Actually, that was the edited version.
I'm sure it was.
It's so funny, because I would always send it to him, and because that's just who I am, and especially with something like this. And I am writing a book that I've actually have a lot of things I didn't write about, that'll be kind of in the book version. But it is funny, Bob did edit it, because the great thing about this community, I'm sure we'll talk more about this, is people were so invested in us as much as we've been invested in this community and school district for, between us, almost 40 years. And it was so nice to see that. It became overwhelming a little bit, because you just don't know what to do. You're dealing with trying to save your son's life, and then how do you just be so thankful and appreciative to people, you know, because you're still trying to do all of that too.
But you know, what was also interesting, we joked a little bit about, you know, Chagrin and Kenston. It was something that tore barriers of community completely down.
Sure.
My experience in that school district where Shannon went to high school, it was just an amazing outpouring of support. And you know, she's right, it was just overwhelming. It was, how do you direct this and manage it? And you just, in terms of lessons you learn, you know, we've talked a few times with young people about this. There's no question, whatever you give, you get back in tenfold. And it was our time, and we certainly got a heck of a lot back.
And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna go back to the whole, you know, the real and raw moment. I just ran into somebody I went to graduate school with who came to the magic show. It surprised me. And she's like, I just want to let you know, just reading that, it was like being back in grad class with you. Like, you know, and that's what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be very kind of conversational. I didn't want it to be preachy. It was about our experience. And, you know, most of the feedback I got was great about it, but it really was something that, I mean, that's who I am, is I wanted something that hopefully other families can look at that are going through this. Hopefully no other families have to go through, but if they do, it's something that they can read, because I had so many people who would bring me books and things, and they were too polished. You know?
Yeah.
And I just felt like, how great would it be to have something, and it's not for everybody. Some people need that polished version because you're going through that feel good. But I also want to be real and raw about it, because there's nothing about this that was great outside of, well, that's not true. I mean, we've developed a lot of new family and new friends at the hospital, and I think we've learned a lot about ourselves and who we want to be as a result of that. But
you probably have a totally different outlook on life and precious moments and miracles. I imagine too that you I'm guessing, I couldn't imagine going through what you guys have, but that experience has to have given you a different perspective on life that you wouldn't have gotten, right, but for going through it.
Yeah, I mean, perspective is something we've talked a lot about.
Yeah.
You know, the moments that you take completely for granted, and we both have those where, you know, one of mine was being down at the park down in Chagrin, shortly, not too long after we got home, just a break in the weather, and I'm sitting there pushing him on a swing, and I'm crying like a baby. They're walking by thinking, you must be crazy, but
right.
It's just those little things you do with your kids every day that you take for granted, because, you know, we sat there for 5 months wondering if that was ever going to happen. Was I ever going to be able to put him on a swing? Was I ever going to be able to see him walk? And so all of that really provides some clarity into how special those moments are.
Can we go back? By the way, do you want another beer?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Can we go back? So we left off when you learned that it would be like a more aggressive type of chemo that was going to last 7 weeks. And so he goes through that, and you're living in the hospital for 5 months. And at some point, is there like a new prognosis, or is there a recovery that you learn about? I mean, what happens next in the medical story?
It's you know, it was 6 cycles of 21 days, 5 of which were intense chemo, 15 were to recover. We met with someone early, and basically they told us someone's quitting their job, figure out who it's going to be.
that's when we knew it was real.
Yeah.
The doctor's like, well, one of you's going to need to quit. I was like, well, I guess it's going to be me, Bob, unless you want me to run the district. But, you know, it just, I mean, that's when it was like, and this was beginning of August.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting ready to go back.
Right.
And then we're just, now all of a sudden, we're
Were you
living in the clinic.
Were you able to, because you've been there a long time, were you able to have your time off?
Well, interestingly enough, like, I've never been one to take a lot of sick time. However, I had 2 babies in 3 years. So, I mean, that
You
took...
can look at Bob for that.
Yeah, I know. So I had enough sick time to get me through till February, I think. So, I mean, that's another great thing about this job too, and having not only that financial support, but having the support of the board, really with both of our jobs and what we were enduring.
Yeah. So, I mean, back to your question, one of the things they did was they brought in a family who went through this so you could ask questions. And one of the comments that really resonated with me on that day, you know, I think we both took different away, was as soon as you think your child is healthy, it's time for chemo again. And that was so true because he had 5 days of chemo. We fought to get him his numbers back up, and as you get this weird perspective, you want his numbers high enough so you can start poisoning them again. But that was our reality, and you know, it led to, you know, pretty much throughout the whole time, the news was good. I mean, he was hitting his benchmarks and he was making progress, but everything that happens in between there is just, you wouldn't wish it upon anyone to see your child go through in terms of the side effects.
You can't even describe it. I mean, you know, the losing of the hair and the vomiting is just kind of like what people associate with chemo. His mouth sores, which went all the way through his esophagus, down to the butt sores, was just something we had not. And it's like the doctor, once he had those, I mean, he would just be bleeding out of his mouth, and there's nothing they can do for that. You know, I mean, he's got no immune system to even heal. Like, it just takes days. So, and the doctor said after the first round, he's like, you try to prep parents for this by saying it's going to be bad. And so Bob and I are pretty stubborn and strong-willed people, which can work sometimes. And so we're like, oh, we can totally get through this. Like, not a big deal. Like, and in my mind, I also thought, like, my kid is special. Like, if anybody can beat the side effects, or maybe not have any side effects, like, maybe he'll be that one special case, just like the one case of Burkitt's. Like, in my mind, I wrapped my head around that he was not even going to have any side effects. And the doctor said, you just can't prepare a parent for what that's going to look like until it happens. And it's just a nightmare.
Ironically, you know, to get you, maybe down the road a little bit, and I don't remember the exact numbers. I remember cycle 2 and 3 were really rough. 4 was a little bit more mild, and they kept prepping us for 5 and 6 that you're going to end strong. And I think we did pretty well. We kind of settled in the routine and we're surviving, but there got to a point there in late December where we would either do 2 nights there, and then rotate, or, there was a couple where we had to do 3. We were literally changing out every night because we just didn't have it left. And they kind of geared us up. This one's gonna be rough. This is gonna be rough. And that's the one. He took 5 days of chemo, and just came through. No side effects, no change. I mean, just like, it was the most unbelievable. It was like a gift from him. Like, you guys have seen enough from me. I'm gonna take care of
it.
this.
It was, but the sick thing that went through my mind is like, did you give him chemo? Because you're like, you knew the drugs were in him and working when he got sick.
Right.
So when he didn't get sick, sickly in my mind, I'm thinking, are you sure you gave it to him? I mean, we were there. We saw the bags of chemo hanging. But in your mind, then you start to just play those weird games like, well, why didn't he get sick? And the doctors had no explanation. Like, I mean, they don't have much explanation really for where he's at. I mean, they couldn't believe when he came in 2 months ago and he's walking like he's just this little man, because then once we got home, I start reading about all the late effects, what they're called late effects.
Like what?
Like, I mean, it could be anything from developmentally to behaviorally. I mean, he had 13 lumbar punctures, something around that, which is a direct line of chemo to the brain. He's 7 to 12 months old. He's developing. So how is that not going to affect his brain development? Sure. So, I mean, these are all things that we're probably not going to know until later on.
Right.
But it could even, I mean, it's from any of his organs. you know.
And are they still going to study you, or Hawk? Are they?
Yeah, we go every month still. His immune system's pretty shot, so we go every month and he gets IVG, which is basically an antibody to help his immune system. You know, as much as he's home now, we can't really take him out too much because he's very susceptible. And they do monthly blood tests. The first year is the highest kind of chance of relapse, and we talked about relapse, and with Burkitt's, relapse is bad. And if they didn't get it the first time around, it's really bad because they essentially gave him the most intense chemos that are out there, and if it comes back, that means
they've got nothing else.
Yeah, there's
Right.
nothing
And
else.
scans are good.
Everything's
he's
great.
had his scans, and you're going through all of this while you have a 3-year-old
She's about to be crazy 3-year-old
at home. And,
Yeah.
and how is that? How is
well,
and 2 other kids,
right,
older,
and you know the older ones. What's nice is, you know, we have a great relationship with their mother, and she was phenomenal through the whole thing. And they were at least old enough to kind of understand what was going on, and they were very supportive. I mean, it was still very hard on them.
Mm-hmm.
But with Emmy, I mean, she was 2.5. It's hard to explain. I mean, she never saw her parents together because we were constantly, you know, and how do you even try to explain that?
Mm-hmm.
So we would try to do at least monthly outings with her just so she could see us. And we took her to the hospital once. We were afraid to do that, not only with germs, her being in preschool, bringing anything in, but Hawk was hooked up to tons of things. Like, that's how she's going to see her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a lot of FaceTiming, and that seemed to really work. And we had family. Our family's been amazing, that we've got family that's around that kind of helped take care of her too. But now with her, I've noticed, even if I'm going to go to the grocery store, are you going to come back? Like, it's every day. Today, coming here, are you going to come back? You going to come check on me? And so I just think that I still kind of figuring that all out.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But it affected a lot of people. I mean, luckily, Bob and I don't think that we've ever been closer, quite honestly, which we didn't see a lot of each other, but when we did, when we'd have family come give us a couple hours break and we'd go get lunch downtown or something, like, it was 3 hours of intense time because that's all you had.
Right.
And I think that was one thing that we learned is when you have what you think is all this time in the world, you bicker about kind of silly things, but when you only have that amount of time, you know, before one of you has to go back.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think was your like top 1 or 2 or 3 like coping strategies, right? Like in your darkest moments, right? Like what helped you the most to stay present and keep it together?
You know, for me, it was just looking at him, and you know, one of the things we talked about perspective is one of the lessons, and the other was perseverance. The ability of a human body at 7 months old to endure what he went through, what was pumped into him. I mean, and we used to call it the Gatorade collection because his chemo would be lime green, then it'd be bright red, and then be yellow, and just to watch him get his immune system completely torn down, and his fever spiking to 103, his heart rate pick you running in, worried that you're going to lose him. Watching him fight, it just kind of made, for me, I kept allowing that perspective to say, if this little kid can endure so much, we can do this. We can get through this. And it's funny, we're educators, right? But I think the greatest teacher maybe both of us have ever had is a year-old, young kid named Hawk, because he taught us so damn much.
And we talk about all the time is he knew no other way than to fight.
Right.
It's like as we get older and we have choices and options, and sometimes we just choose not to because it's easier. But he did because that's all he could do, and I just think that he is such an inspiration. It's like as soon as you think you're having a bad day or something like that, you just look at him. And I also, we read a lot from the Bible. We had a lot of people. I mean, it's hard not to seek God in this ordeal. I mean, it's hard not to question a lot, but to have faith and to really kind of, rely on that. I think that's kind of changed. That was a big part too.
Well, the other piece is you just had to walk out your room and turn either way and somebody had it worse. And so, as much as it was really, really rough and really, really scary, we there was a cart that essentially would show up outside a room and they would call it end of life care. So you'd walk out and you'd see a cart and you knew what was going on. And
these are all kids.
These are all kids. So
then you just go. Then you don't want to leave your room because you don't even know how to I mean, and these are people that you've been living there for so long. Like them,
right?
And so there is always somebody that has it. Like it was awful. It was.
Are you touching base or in contact with J.O.'s family, a South Russell police officer who's.
We've reached out, and I think with that, in what we learned is there's certain, I have, I'll say Richard Haber was the guy I called, and he reached out early, and I knew he had some experience, and that was who I called, and for Shannon, she felt her own way, so we reached out to him, and we've seen him at fundraisers and things of that nature, but you just want people to know there's support there and not push yourself.
Right.
They're going to find who they need at the time, and that's kind of, I think, what happened for us too.
Yeah, it was interesting. Both Bob and I, the way we handled it was far different. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I'd rather write about it. I don't know how he was able to go to work. I'll never even understand that in a million years. Like, I'd be able to leave the hospital and go to work. And I think the fact that he did that and did it to such the level that he did is amazing. Feat all on its own. But for me, I didn't want to talk to anybody because I couldn't talk about it. I mean, it's still hard for me to talk about and not get emotional because we're not out of the woods yet. I mean, he's 3 months, into remission. And like today, I was telling Bob, like he got up after a 50-minute nap, which is unusual, and screaming. And I couldn't console him. And I'm not thinking, is he teething? Or is he like the common things I'm like thinking, is the cancer back? So I still live in fear every day. So for me, I'd rather write about it. And I had people that would come and visit. But if Bob's would always say, well, so-and-so said they would come visit, you're there. And I was like, no, I didn't. For me, I didn't want that. He never wanted to be alone. He wanted people. And I didn't. It's just weird how we...
I hadn't even thought about that, but that's such a good point. Like, parenting is such a mind game anyway, right? Like, I have no clue what is causing my kid to act insane at any given point. I just have, like 1 to 15 different guesses, but you throw, a potentially fatal illness into that mix. And all of the mystery that goes with that behavior, that goes with that, I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Your mind must be all over the place.
I'm crazy.
When that happens.
I mean, I was crazy before this happened, for most people who would know me. I would say good crazy. But now I'm just crazy. Because we were fortunate enough that, Hawk got really, really sick about a month and a half ago. And it was bad. And it was a 2-week, and we went to the doctor, and they did all these tests because his liver enzymes were up. They couldn't understand. They did an ultrasound. They're like, well, his liver looks fine, but his gallbladder swollen. I was like, but that's not why you went in there. So it's like they go in and they find something else.
Right.
And it's like, well, why are his liver numbers up? And so to make a long story short, he had a really, really bad virus that people with suppressed immune systems get. And because he has no immune system to fight it, it takes him long to recover. It was 2 weeks of just torture for this kid. And I'll never forget the phone call when I got the test results back. And she's like, well, the good news is it's a virus. And you're not happier. Like, it's a virus. Right. And most parents are like, oh my gosh, it's a virus. like this is gonna, and it's awful, and it is awful, but you have the sense of relief that it's a virus.
Right.
But still, after 2 weeks of him having the virus, you're like, when am I going to open that door and he's going to be fine? Because then you start thinking, are they sure it's a virus? Like, you're just,
right,
because that's what they told me. They told me it was a virus before.
Yeah.
So I don't know, as parents, as you guys know, you always worry. That's just what you do as parents. I think we have a special kind of worry. At his second birthday, it'll be a little less. Because the good thing with Burkitt's is it doesn't lay dormant. It's aggressive. It multiplies every 5 days. One cell multiplies every 5 days. So if it's going to show its ugly face, it's going to show it sooner than later. Mm-hmm. So if he gets that 1 year benchmark, the chances of us being...
And when is that?
So that'll be around his birthday in December, but probably more like January. Okay. So I hate to wish time away, but that will be one of the best days of our lives, because we now sit in anticipation. We get these checkups, which the week leading up to, Bob can already tell, like, I'm already becoming a little crazy at home. We get the good news. We have 2 really good weeks, because then I start worrying about the next test.
So are they checking to make sure that nothing is growing, and they, is that the kind of checkups you're having?
Take his blood, which is quite an ordeal with an infant. They took his central line out now, so they need to find a vein, which can take 45 minutes or an hour. But they check his blood counts, and if those are okay, then we're good to go. He gets an IV for a couple of hours, and we bring him home.
So you guys did something with your experience, right? You created a foundation, and it has an amazing purpose. I was reading about it. We were reading about it. The 3 Ps. Did you guys come up with that? The 3 Ps?
The English teacher came up with that.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I'm all about that alliteration.
So
like you just want, you want something that's catchy, and it seemed to make sense with where our story was.
Right.
So talk about the foundation and the 3 Ps.
So we're in the process of creating it. So we're through the states and dealing with the kind of the federal approval now. And I think, just to step back, we felt like
I'm sorry.
Just the process of getting the 501c3 approved. So
I know a really good nonprofit lawyer, Bob.
There you go.
Yeah. About 3 of them, actually.
All right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's go on the lobby. So, we're kind of in the federal stage where it's, the application's in and we're waiting on kind of that final approval. But, to maybe step back, we just felt like we were given so much through this and maybe learned so much that we wanted to, give back, do something else, and help other people that are put in this unfortunate situation. So that's really kind of the reason for developing it. And, we had some I guess, experiences with some organizations, with some service providers that weren't real great, and we learned a lot of things, and we felt like we wanted something a little more pure. We want to help families, and we want to help give money to research specifically. And if we can leverage our story to do that, great. So I'll let you cover the 3 Ps in terms of the organization.
Well, we kind of talked about perspective, and I think, both Bob and I could agree that we lacked a lot of perspective in what we thought was really important. And we don't think that people have to go through something so traumatic to have that perspective. Unfortunately, that's what typically has to happen. As people can't kind of step outside for a second and say, well, this really isn't that big of a deal. And so we think perspective is just really important to incorporate. It was for us. And we think perseverance, having Hawk, that so many people would come to me and said, I just don't know how you do it. Well, when you're pushed in a corner and you have nowhere to go, that's how you do it.
Although some people give up. You can give up.
Right. I mean,
right? So
you can.
Have to,
and we saw some of that.
We saw some of that, but it's like, you got a 7-month-old baby. Well, actually, there were people who did leave their babies, so I guess you're right. But for us, there was no other choice. And, you know, the path piece, which is kind of the journey, is, you know, I go to Robert Frost, you know, which road you going to take? But, you know, really a lot of times people just kind of go along life and allow the path be defined for them instead of them defining their path. And I would say to some extent that was us, you know, and we designed Life Extraordinary because we feel everybody has the ability to be extraordinary. We think that there are a lot of really good ordinary people who do a lot of good things. You know, I think Bob and I would say that we were just ordinary folks trying to do really good things in our professions, with our families, but when looking back on it, it really wasn't enough. Like, it's taking a step further and making something greater through our experience. And that's how Life Extraordinary came about. And really it was because Hawk, I mean, he is our Life Extraordinary. He defines all of those 3 Ps for us. And we just think that people have stories to tell, and they don't have to be like this dramatic. This doesn't have to happen for people to do extraordinary things, and that's kind of the whole point. But everybody has a story to tell, and that's what we really found in the hospital. And what a huge difference telling those stories and how we can do something with those stories and make a difference, really.
So the organization that you guys formed provides funding for research for Burkitt's leukemia specifically, right? Or is it for?
No, we're gonna focus on pediatric cancer research. If you look at, I think the numbers, if you look at what the federal government gives in terms of cancer research, only 4% of it goes to pediatric cancer research. So we're going to try to, you know, help in whatever regard we can, and then we're working on a web-based solution that can be given to families that are faced with this crisis to help them maybe organize them in dealing with all of the things that you're going to deal with, and additionally put resources out there to support them along the way. So that's the platform that we're working on trying to create to help when you're kind of land in this situation. How do you facilitate all this support? How do you find resources? How do you gather that support and make it so it actually helps you? That's the base of the web-based solution that we're trying to put together.
So it's funding, it's experiences, it's emotional support, right? It's sharing your story, and it's at, what's the web? Is there a website up right now, or
no,
it's still?
There's not. It's just a Facebook page right now.
Okay.
And it's at Life Extraordinary on Facebook.
Are people able to donate money now?
They are. We've got a kind of a sponsor organization that'll handle that, and eventually when final approval comes through, we'll be able to move that over.
They can also sing in That's My Jam, because the whole month of May is for this foundation. So you come, got a big check that they just printed, we'll put your big number on it, make a donation, and sing, and they have fun, which is part of their, is just enjoying life as it is right now.
Right.
Awesome.
And I just want to kind of talk to you a little bit about what Bob said, about the underfunding of childhood cancer. And I understand that, when you look at the percentages of childhood cancers versus breast cancer or things of that nature, that it is significantly less. Like, there's not as many kids getting cancers as women getting breast cancer or things like that. But to say that only 4% of that budget goes to childhood cancer it's insane. I mean, there's only been, I think, 2 or 3 new drugs over the last 20 to 30 years for childhood cancer specifically. 1 in 5 kids diagnosed with cancer will die. And we saw 3 of them, but we were there. I mean, and that's the reality. I mean, cancer sucks. No matter, I'm not saying that breast cancer doesn't deserve to have the research. I'm not saying that. But when you live on a floor with sick kids, ranging from, Hawk was the youngest, to 18, it just really, I think, touches you. And then to learn more about how underfunded it really is, just for research, to give these kids a chance. is something that we're really, really passionate about.
And we're lucky that we have some level of clout that we can share a story, and there's a platform for that. But there's cases all around us. I mean, we've known students. We have students in Chagrin. You've got Zupe and South Russell. These are people that are all around us facing this and fighting it. And so, we understand Hawk's story is powerful, but there's a lot of those stories out there, and we want to be able to help those people.
If there was one thing that you could ask to come out of this experience, maybe that's the better question. Like, what really are you hoping to make happen as a result of your experience?
Well, I think from a practical standpoint, it's as simple as supporting others. If we can help one other family go through this and be able to help them manage that, I think that would be very rewarding for both of us. Obviously, giving back and helping to find a cure with such a massive problem seems like just such an overwhelming task. But I think what is unique about maybe what we're talking about here is we hope we do more than that and inspire people to think about their own lives a little bit. Maybe utilize the story to reflect upon those 3 Ps, if you will, and make whatever changes they can and are comfortable with making. We had the opportunity to go to Kenston Middle School and talk to their students, and it's a story about Hawk, but it's really a story about life. And if we can impact people that way, that would be a pretty powerful legacy, I think, for our son. And maybe with the book and the things that happen, we can help people get there.
Yeah. Awesome. So it seems like around this table there's been a lot of public service lately, right? By the way, that magic show was really cool.
Yeah.
So I saw Bob and Shannon at the. Did you go to that magic? You didn't go
not.
to that. I would have seen you there.
I did not.
It was Magic Gives Back, and it was this amazing magician and his 6 buddies raising money for schools, for Chagrin Falls School. So that happened. The essay contest happened, and congratulations to you guys and to Chagrin Falls for just crushing.
It's fine.
For the kids listening at home, Molly was not just gloating all over the conference
Oh no,
room
for the
table.
kids at home, I was.
Chagrin,
I had anything to do with it, but I'm
Chagrin
taking
Falls
the
did
credit.
very well in the
They
We
sure
Solve
did.
Problems essay contest.
I think you call it a sweep.
Yes, that was a sweep. They took every first place. My 2 Kenston going sons at home wouldn't talk to me, as though I could have somehow steered.
Well, that's why it's anonymous, right?
That's right. That's
right. Owed 2 dinners now.
No, I paid you already on that first dinner. So that was cool, right? And then and so Molly, you said that your new, what would you call that? A TV show?
Oh, it's called That's My Jam.
Right, but what would you? It's an internet
sensation, about to be internet
Well,
sensation.
I'll just let you know that because of this, Jeff Griff, who is also on our board, and I forgot to bring it with me today, although I do have a selfie with him, brought this gold badass microphone that he bought to use on the That's My Jam. It's gold and it's fancy and so he brought that.
I
and
can't
he
wait.
will be singing. Lowe's Greenhouse will be donating and singing in the car with
Awesome.
the microphone. So if you would
What
like to
song
join me
will it be? Do you know?
in the Jeff,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So do we get to pick our songs?
It's the only
Bob,
thing.
I got our jam.
What is
I
it?
can't.
The only thing is I have to
You have to
kind
clear
of.
it for
I actually have so many. I need to maybe filter. I gotta get the clean. I gotta get the clean version.
Yeah, if Hawk is in the car, we're not gonna drive.
Okay,
we'll
we're
stay in
totally
the
having
parking
Hawk
lot.
because if there's anything that
He
that
likes
boy
to jam?
loves
He likes to jam.
is
Oh,
his music,
that makes
and we are
sense.
so grateful. I don't know. We talked about our experience, but how we thank God every day. But we're so blessed to have the Cleveland Clinic in our backyard, and what they did for our boy. It's amazing. People have become our family, But I talk about this because they had art, they had music, they had all of these specialists that would come in, and we were kind of like blowing it off. We're like, he's 7 months old. Like, really? Physical therapists, they had all art, it's just crazy. It was the best thing that ever happened to him. And I think that may be why he's not showing signs of being developmentally delayed, is because he was so interactive. Like, he would light up in his sickest days for when the music therapist would come in and jam with him. And I have videos, like, it's crazy. So he will be a part of it.
About it. And is he showing his own, like, he's becoming a little
He's
person
a little
now,
man.
like
He's a little mini Bob.
now, and a mini Bob.
Yeah.
More hair,
No,
but
yeah,
I
more
know.
hair than Bob.
His
I
hair,
wasn't going to say anything,
Yeah, right.
but it needed to be said.
That's right.
Somebody needed to.
his hair is coming back, and it was funny.
Well,
that
when
was
his started to fall off at the hospital, it was like the one thing I felt like we can control here. So I took a razor in and shaved his head. So she went home that night, and so he and I went in the bathroom in the Cleveland Clinic and shaved our heads together.
Wow.
Unfortunately, his is growing back and mine is a little delayed. So
I know.
maybe the chemotherapy got what's going on.
Maybe it's not coming back. Maybe it's not coming back.
so he'll be a part of that, and I just
I love that.
I think what Molly's doing with this, and what so many others have done in kind of helping sponsor this whole movement has been great, and that's just a testament to this community. And we can't thank you enough, Molly, and all of those people who've helped us. And thank you for having us here, just to kind of tell this story. And
Share it.
We do have 850,000 listeners
Yes.
listening right now.
Yes, across the world.
Eventually,
Yeah.
if we do enough of these and we can add them up, there might be 850. Period.
So you are having an event, July 30th, yes, that we could talk about?
we've partnered with the Sweet Corn Challenge. I had a couple of teachers that are into cycling that asked me if I would do this with them, and I said sure. And we were still in the hospital, so I obviously wasn't in well mind. But essentially, the Sweet Corn Challenge in Richfield, there's a 5K run and walk. There's a 10K bike ride, there's a 20, 50, and 100-mile cycling event. So apparently I'm going to ride a bike for 50 miles. I'm not sure how
which
that's
is
gonna
well
happen.
worth the fee.
Yes,
Right.
amen.
To just
to
What
go.
kind of bike
See
is
that.
this? Like a regular bike, or is it like one of those with 2 seats on it, and you're like in the back, and somebody
no.
out front is doing the
I
pedal
think
thing?
This
These people are
is-
serious.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
The
people are
first time, if I can tell this story.
No, I don't think I think they're sort of friends.
Well, maybe that can come under our.
We got
our
a question.
We do
Yeah,
have a
you might
question.
wanna hold
you
this-
might be able to
Okay,
answer.
Yeah.
okay,
Yes,
all right. Because I
yes.
was like, this is. I just think that if anybody, even
Well-
if you don't participate, just come and watch
Come for
Bob
the
get on the
fun.
bike.
Well, so, anyways, they were nice enough to let us kind of form a team, register
I
people
can
for
see
it,
it now.
and kick this thing off. So that's what
I love it,
we're
and I
looking
love
at.
the name of it. It seems like it should be here. We should bring it to Chagrin or
Yeah.
something like
What-
the Sweet Corn Challenge. I could just love that
Interesting.
name. I love that name.
Shannon, you just had a great segue there
Yes.
because it's because it's our lightning round
So
question.
lightning round.
I was debating, Molly, whether to have a lightning round question here because this has been such a moving podcast.
Let's
but
finish it up
but
light.
Shannon gave us such an
Yes.
opening there that
And-
we have to.
And it should be he to her and her to he.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
And
All right.
and just so you know, I mean this was an emotional thing. I mean, and it still is an emotional journey. But I have found there's a lot of things that got me through it, but laughter is by far one of the biggest contributors
Yeah.
to my ability to deal with this really on a daily basis. And so I'm all about
Having
lightning
some fun.
rounds and having some fun and doing all that because
Life's too
that's,
short.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, and some people will look at me crazy when I say things about, with Hawk and cancer, but it's just me and my coping and the way that I choose to deal with it. So I'm all about.
All right.
All right, wait. I think we should have just the one lightning round question because the
Do
other
it.
ones we know
Do
the
it.
answers to.
Yeah, that is true.
We'll tell you
That
what
is
they
true.
are. The lightning round question that you have to answer is, what is an embarrassing thing that has happened to you that no one else knows about? Now you
And I think the opposite people should answer it. Oh,
I'm in.
Yes,
But
bring
then,
it.
so it's a
We'll
modified
see how
one.
strong it's made their marriage.
So it's really what's an embarrassing thing
and we're
that
hoping
only
you're going
your
to whatever
spouse
happened on
knows
the bike.
about.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I don't know. I have like an inventory. This actually could be a separate
Lord.
podcast.
She's
But-
shutting down, ladies and gentlemen. There's too many answers.
Which one are you going to get less in trouble for?
I mean,
when
so
you
it's
head
just
home?
about this moment, right? Like,
Oh,
About
no,
anything in your whole
no.
lives. This one's tough, I know. You've got,
So it's an embarrassing thing
But
about
you're
her
gonna say-
that she won't admit to?
well, I mean, I think that you guys.
See, I
That-
think
you go
that's the
first,
way
because
to
then I'm going
go.
to trump you.
That's okay, too. The original.
I mean, obviously it's one person you typically, and they're sharing it about
Yeah.
themselves.
I
But
actually
since
love this,
we-
so he should say mine and what he would think, and then I'll say.
You know what? You guys are our guests. However you want to do
Oh,
this.
that's so nice of you to say. But I like it. I like it this way, because I already have my.
Okay.
Do you get something?
I just, yeah. I have a lot of things. I mean, this is out there in public,
Okay.
so we're going to.
Oh.
I'll stick with one that Shannon tends to lie about her ability to drive. Every car that we have ever had within the first week of ownership, Shannon has significantly dented and or ripped a unit, and she refuses to acknowledge that it has anything to do with her driving.
She's
It's the other
still-
people. I'm
Right.
still. Yeah, if you could
She
see my
must-
face,
yeah.
that's the only
She
thing. Like
must
I'm in
park-
disbelief. I don't even know what you're talking
Yeah, she
about.
must
Actually.
park her car in the same spot at Giant Eagle or Heinen's every time we get a new car. So there, that's what I got for
All
you.
right.
Oh, it's gonna be easy to-
Interesting.
It's gonna be totally
Interesting.
easy to
He's,
do
he's
that.
trying to. He's trying to set the stage as being soft.
Yes. and I reserve the right to come back. Go.
I have two.
It's called a rebuttal.
Am I allowed to
I
have
think.
two?
You can have
Yeah.
a second.
Two.
We're all
right,
friends
here's
here.
the
Then I'm
thing.
going to come back.
We can always edit
Okay.
if he doesn't like it.
Okay.
But I will always
Okay.
know.
Well, this isn't really embarrassing, maybe for him, because maybe he thought he was owning it. But from the outsider looking in, I was like, what the hell's going on? So his biking thing, I'm trying to support it. It's great. You're out
You knew
there.
She was going there.
You're out there. You're getting some exercise. This is awesome. One, I didn't realize that bikes cost so much. So we had somebody, we were borrowing a bike, which is great because I'm like, that's a commitment. And I'm like, are you really into that commitment? Not like I was trying to downplay
Still
it.
supporting.
So he comes out for his first bike, and these other guys were meeting at the house.
I think everybody's got the visual.
And I'm
Let's
just
move on.
like,
What is he wearing?
I'm like, I get the whole idea of biker shorts. Like, we've all seen biker shorts, right? Right? We've all,
Oh, yes, we have.
we know biker shorts, but do we really know them?
I
Like,
do know.
So he comes waltzing in the kitchen with these biker shorts on. And I'm trying to be that supportive wife, like, this is great. Because I knew, we're going to go do this thing. This is going to be a fundraiser. This is great. Like, go ride those 50 miles. But really in the biker shorts. And then there's the top.
They're for
That's
aerodynamics,
also, I know,
right?
like
They're
you're going to
supposed
hit the wind.
Wind, yeah.
It was more
Or
of a
hit
joke than
something.
purpose. This is
I actually have a
we were ever
picture.
gonna podcast about.
Oh, there's a
Are there-
picture.
No, but I was
Are
just
there, wait,
like,
are there pictures?
oh,
No.
We do have it on
Interesting.
Facebook.
I just feel like, I know he was just trying to,
Wait,
he was
what's
trying to be, quote, funny.
Those aren't cheap either.
No.
So
I mean, 'cause you got the special, like, padded
the
panties
buns,
in
the
the,
butt
Got
pads.
it.
biker shorts, and they're tight and all, everything's
can I
just
please have
out.
the
Just
picture
for the record,
board meeting?
it
Just
was at-
one little picture.
It was at the 74-minute mark that Bob Hunt officially regretted coming on this podcast. That was
So
the
that's-
moment.
I regretted not giving more. I got one. Go ahead.
I'm done. I don't need to say
You got
anymore.
two. You told me you had two.
No, I don't need
Why
it.
stop now?
It's
Come
okay.
on, the audience can't stand it. Oh my goodness, that's great. That's a good.
We'll hold that
shit.
second one for the next, for episode 2.
Yes, the visuals. I probably should see the picture because the visuals are probably worse. I got things going on now.
I I don't.
mean,
Actually,
can't
I don't
fix
know
that.
that they
Can't
are.
fix that.
Molly, I don't know that they are.
Gone.
I don't want to
done.
throw Bob under the bus here, but I think in fairness to the listening audience at home, maybe a competition, maybe like whoever wins the next like essay contest gets like an autographed framed picture of Bob in his biker shorts. I don't know. I'm just throwing
that'd
this
be
out
great.
there.
Sure.
Just throwing it out there.
Speaking of raising money,
Well,
Oh,
this
gracious.
was awesome.
This
Thank
was
you guys so
wonderful.
much for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Is there other than what we've covered? Is there anything any announcements or things coming up?
Well, get on the schedule for That's My Jam for sure. For
That's
the
My
month of
Jam.
May. Pick your song and email me.
Okay, so you're talking to like who? Like
Anybody.
anyone who wants to do
Businesses
karaoke in your car.
Or well, it's
raise
real
money.
singing, but yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, it's
raise
real
money.
singing. Oh, I thought it was karaoke.
You
Well,
know
that
what?
is,
It's
karaoke's real singing.
Yeah. You're right. Yes.
All right.
Yes. Whatever you want, and it can't be any of your crappy bands. It's got to be good music.
I would definitely not be allowed. None
I
of
think Nellie's representing the firm.
that's good.
Yeah.
I was gonna do Sabotage by the Beastie Boys.
Exactly, which I don't even know.
I know. Just got swear.
Don't even know.
So, all right, and then you want to go to the Facebook page for your foundation.
And I'm sure Bob wants to say vote for the May whatever.
absolutely. May 2nd.
May 2nd. First Tuesday of the month, right? Is that
first
usually what it is?
May 2nd levy. So we
Vote for
certainly
the school levy.
Appreciate the support.
I don't know if this will be out before then, but if it is, go vote for that levy so that Bob can get paid.
Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with
No,
Bob's pay.
new building.
Oh, it's new.
No.
Yeah.
But our sanity.
Yes.
Sanity.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Just thank you guys for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
for coming
coming.
on.
Love telling the story.
It's a great
Cheers.
story. I mean, honestly, it really is inspiring. I'm gonna think about
Go home and hug your
some
kids.
perspective.
Yeah.
You
Always
know?
hug your kids.
Hug your kids for sure. All right, kids. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
guys.
much. Thank you.